Volkswagen didn't implode because its cars were unreliable. It imploded because of a single decision that would eventually cost more than $30 billion and permanently damage its reputation. The company believed it could outsmart science, regulators, and reality at the same time. For decades, Volkswagen was known as the safe brand, the honest brand, a symbol of German engineering that didn't cut corners. When people bought a Volkswagen, they weren't buying excitement, they were buying trust. That is what made what happened next so shocking. In 2015, regulators discovered that millions of Volkswagen diesel vehicles were not compliant with emissions laws. The cars were programmed to cheat emissions tests, producing pollution far beyond legal limits while appearing clean on paper. The fallout was immediate and severe. In the early 2000s, Volkswagen became fixated on a single goal: becoming the largest car company in the world. To reach that goal, the company needed success in the United States. There was just one problem. American consumers disliked diesel vehicles. In the United States, diesel was associated with loud engines, visible smoke, and poor performance. At the same time, emissions regulations were becoming increasingly strict, particularly around nitrogen oxides, gases linked to asthma and heart disease. Volkswagen engineers recognized the challenge almost immediately. Powerful diesel engines were easy to build. Fuel efficiency was not an issue, but creating diesel vehicles that were clean enough for US regulations while remaining affordable proved far more difficult. Despite the warnings, leadership pushed forward. Instead of slowing down, Volkswagen launched a marketing campaign built around a simple idea: clean diesel. Diesel cars that were efficient, enjoyable to drive, and environmentally responsible. The concept was compelling, and for a time, the American market accepted it. Diesel engines are highly efficient, but they have a fundamental limitation. They naturally produce significantly higher levels of nitrogen oxides than gasoline engines. Reducing those emissions requires complex and expensive systems that reduce performance and raise costs. Volkswagen engineers attempted every possible solution. Exhaust systems were redesigned, catalysts were upgraded, existing technology was pushed to its limits. Each solution came with trade-offs that conflicted with the company's promises. Performance suffered, costs increased, or emissions targets were missed. Physics did not cooperate. Volkswagen reached a critical decision point. It could acknowledge that the technology was not ready, delay its American diesel expansion, and absorb the financial consequences. Or it could pursue another solution. Under intense pressure to deliver results, Volkswagen chose a third path. Engineers developed software capable of detecting when a vehicle was undergoing laboratory emissions testing. During testing, emissions were reduced to legal levels. Once the test concluded, the software disengaged, allowing emissions to rise dramatically during normal driving. On paper, the vehicles were compliant. In real-world conditions, they were not. Technology alone did not cause Volkswagen's failure. Corporate culture played a decisive role. Inside the company, decision-making followed a rigid hierarchy. Targets were aggressive, and failure was not tolerated. Executives demanded results, not explanations. Engineers were expected to produce solutions, not raise objections. Admitting that a goal could not be achieved was not viewed as honesty. It was viewed as incompetence. As a result, bad news stopped moving upward. Problems were resolved quietly at lower levels, sometimes through ethically questionable means, long before they reached senior leadership. Over time, this environment normalized corner cutting. When the emissions challenge proved unsolvable within the imposed constraints, cheating did not feel like an ethical collapse. It felt like survival. Responsibility became fragmented. Accountability disappeared. The scandal was not driven by a single individual acting alone. It was the result of a system that discouraged transparency and rewarded results at any cost. For nearly a decade, the deception remained hidden. Volkswagen sold millions of diesel vehicles worldwide. The company received environmental awards, passed regulatory inspections, and built a global brand around the idea of clean diesel. Internally, the truth was known, but strong sales and growing market share muted concern. Ending the deception would have meant recalls, investigations, and public embarrassment. Continuing required silence. Volkswagen chose silence. The software was no longer an isolated decision. It became embedded in normal operations and reinforced through performance targets and internal incentives. Volkswagen deceived customers, regulators, and governments. Eventually, it deceived itself. The scandal did not begin with a whistleblower or a government raid. It began with academic research. Scientists at West Virginia University were conducting real-world emissions testing, comparing laboratory results with on-road performance. When they tested Volkswagen diesel vehicles, the results were impossible to reconcile. On the road, emissions were measured at up to 40 times the legal limit. Assuming an error, the researchers repeated the tests. The results did not change. Their findings were forwarded to U.S. regulators. Volkswagen denied intentional wrongdoing, citing technical issues and promising corrective updates. The updates failed. In 2015, Volkswagen admitted that it had deliberately installed software designed to cheat emissions tests. Public trust collapsed almost instantly. This was not an abstract technical failure. Millions of people had spent years breathing air made dirtier by a deception they never consented to. The consequences were extensive. Volkswagen was forced to recall and repurchase millions of vehicles worldwide. Governments imposed substantial fines. Lawsuits followed, and senior executives resigned. Some faced criminal prosecution. The financial impact exceeded $30 billion. The damage to Volkswagen's reputation was even greater. In the United States, diesel sales collapsed. The phrase "clean diesel" became synonymous with corporate fraud. Regulators around the world strengthened oversight, and the automotive industry was forced to reevaluate its practices. Volkswagen survived, but only by fundamentally changing direction. The company invested heavily in electric vehicles, not only to remain competitive, but to distance itself from the scandal that reshaped its identity. Volkswagen's billion-dollar mistake was not the software itself. It was building a culture where admitting failure was impossible, a culture that punished bad news, rewarded outcomes at any cost, and treated honesty as weakness. The company believed that concealing the truth would preserve trust, failing to recognize that deception destroys trust far more quickly than failure ever could. The mistake did not simply damage a product line. It reshaped Volkswagen's legacy and became a lasting warning to every organization that places image above integrity.